Within minutes, the moment had escaped the confines of the studio and exploded across the digital world. Phones rose everywhere, cafes, living rooms, offices as viewers replayed the clip over and over, capturing every frame of shock, every flicker of expression. TikTok edits multiplied, each one highlighting the precise instant Crockett's words landed, often set to dramatic music or captions, emphasizing the weight of the revelation. Memes began circulating, clever and biting, condensing seconds of tension into shareable viral snippets. Reaction channels seized the opportunity. Analysts, commentators, and social media personalities dissected the exchange, frame by frame, inflection by inflection. Every eyebrow raise, every pause, every subtle gesture became fodder for conversation. Clips were stitched together, slowed down, highlighted with text overlays, and shared endlessly. Even those who had tuned in casually found themselves compelled to join the dialogue, to retweet, repost, or comment. The velocity of attention was staggering, the spread almost instantaneous, testament to the magnetic power of a single well-timed revelation. In cafes and public spaces, screens glowed with the replayed moment. Conversations erupted, animated and wide-ranging, as people debated what they had just witnessed. Some marveled at Crockett's composure, others at the dramatic shift in Trump's expression. Across the country, viewers were collectively processing the shock, sharing it, commenting on it, and making it part of the fabric of daily conversation. The moment had transcended politics and entered the realm of cultural phenomenon. Piece of media everyone felt compelled to witness. News panels weighed in with measured analysis, dissecting the implications without ever needing to persuade. The focus was on the spectacle, the virality, and the sheer impact of the exchange. Even talk shows that prided themselves on humor found material in the split-second reactions, replaying clips for comedic effect while acknowledging the undeniable drama. Every platform, from Instagram stories to YouTube compilations, added layers of interpretation, magnifying the reach and cementing the moment in public consciousness. And yet, amid all the chatter, the clips, the memes, and the commentary, a subtle undercurrent persisted. Beyond the spectacle, beyond the viral spread, beyond the immediate reactions, there was an emergent clarity. The exchange had revealed more than just shock value. The precision, composure, and timing behind Crockett's delivery had resonated on a deeper level, signaling something enduring about control, dignity, and presence under pressure. The audience felt it instinctively. Even if they couldn't yet articulate it, and beneath the noise, deeper meaning emerged. In the quiet aftermath, the true significance of the moment became clear. The studio lights had dimmed, the cameras had stopped rolling, yet the impact of Crockett's measured words lingered far beyond the immediate shock. It was a demonstration of something timeless, that dignity, composure, and precision often carry more weight than volume, theatrics, or chaos. The DNA bombshell was not merely a revelation. It was a lesson in the power of presence and timing. Crockett's calm had transformed the dynamics entirely. Where one side relied on noise and bravado to command attention, she had shown that stillness, clarity, and deliberate pacing could exert a far deeper influence. The lesson was universal. Moments of quiet strength, when paired with precision and intent, resonate longer and travel farther than any moment of uncontrolled energy. Audiences felt it instinctively, regardless of political affiliation, because the appeal of control under pressure is a truth that transcends debate. The resonance of the broadcast extended into everyday life. People discussed it at work, in classrooms, in cafes, and on social media, marveling at the contrast between panic and poise. Viewers recognized that real power often comes not from dominating others, but from maintaining clarity under pressure. The moment became a metaphor for how integrity, preparation, and calm decisiveness can create an outsized impact in any context, professional or personal. Even the visual details contributed to the moral clarity. The flicker of a stunned expression, the unshaken posture, the precise delivery of a single phrase, each element reinforced a universal truth, that measured actions speak louder than loud words. In a world increasingly defined by noise, this was a reminder that restraint, strategy, and dignity are forms of influence that endure. Ultimately, the exchange was more than just a broadcast. It was a reflection on human character. The audience witnessed a clear demonstration of how one individual, armed with composure and clarity, could shift the energy of an entire room, capture the attention of millions, and leave a lasting impression, without resorting to theatrics. The broader takeaway resonated universally. Integrity, calmness, and deliberate timing have the power to shape perception, inspire admiration, and leave an indelible mark on collective memory. But even as the debates cooled, the moment endured. The silence lingered long after the cameras cut, a pause heavy with significance. That single precise revelation had shifted the energy of the entire broadcast, leaving audiences stunned, captivated, and eager to replay every second. Reactions rippled across screens, conversations, and social feeds, but beneath the shock, the lesson remained clear. Calm, deliberate action carries a power that chaos never can. It was a reminder that owning your voice, speaking with clarity, conviction, and timing resonates far beyond the moment itself. As the clips circulated and discussions unfolded, viewers recognized the enduring value of composure. The drama, the expressions, the micro-reactions all had their place. But the true resonance came from the quiet mastery of delivering truth with confidence. It was a lesson in influence without theatrics, in control without aggression, and in the impact of precision over noise. And now, the story continues with you. Every moment you witness, every discussion you engage in, is an opportunity to choose clarity, to embrace calm strength, and to project your voice with purpose. Join us as we break down more iconic media moments, uncover the layers of drama, and celebrate the power of thoughtful, deliberate action in shaping narratives that endure. Subscribe, share, and be part of the journey. Captivate, inspire, and remind us all that presence, poise, and precision can change everything. The broadcast intensified, each word acting like a spark in a room already charged with tension. Trump leaned forward, voice rising, hands slicing the air with forceful gestures. Each jab crafted to unsettle, to provoke a reaction. His confidence radiated through the cameras, a display of dominance honed over years of public performance. The audience could feel the energy shift with every emphatic point. The studio vibrating with anticipation, every glance and twitch magnified under the unforgiving glare of the studio lights. Crockett, by contrast, remained a pillar of calm. Her posture unshaken, her gaze unwavering, she absorbed each attack without flinching. Every word thrown her way seemed only to sharpen her clarity, reinforcing the contrast between spectacle and control. The room felt like it was stretching and compressing around her composure, time slowing with every calculated pause. Her measured responses created suspense, a counterpoint to the rapid-fire energy of her opponent, leaving viewers on edge, leaning forward, willing to look away. The cameras captured micro-expressions with ruthless precision, close-ups of hands gripping the edge of desks, fingers flexing imperceptibly, highlighted the subtle tension in the room. Blinking tally lights cast rhythmic shadows, marking the seconds as they ticked toward a pivotal moment. Even a faint cough from the audience seemed to echo like a drumbeat in the heightened atmosphere. Each cut, each angle, each lingering shot built the cinematic intensity, transforming a televised debate into a high-stakes drama that felt almost tangible to viewers at home. The energy in the studio spiked with every volley. Trump's voice oscillated between derision and insistence, attempting to reclaim dominance, to disrupt the calm he found so unfamiliar. Yet Crockett's unshakable poise only amplified the effect of each jab. Her restraint became a force, a silent counterweight to the theatrics, forcing the audience and the cameras to focus not on noise, but on subtlety, timing, and presence. The tension was almost physical, a pressure that pressed on everyone, the room magnifying the anticipation of what was to come. Each pause, each glance between the two figures, carried meaning. The audience became part of the rhythm, experiencing the suspense in real time. Social media feeds, live commentary, and viewer anticipation layered over the moment, creating a feedback loop that heightened the dramatic stakes beyond the studio walls. Every gesture seemed like foreshadowing, every word like a prelude to the climax. And yet, despite the rising intensity, Crockett never allowed the energy to dictate her. She did not match volume with volume or aggression with aggression. Stillness, her clarity, her ability to maintain composure amid the escalating storm, signaled that she was waiting for something far more consequential than an exchange of insults. The audience could sense it, the cameras captured it, and even Trump's performance faltered. Caught in the gravity of a composure he could not easily disrupt, the clash had reached its apex. The debate felt taut, a coiled spring ready to release. Every eye fixed, every breath held, and in that suspended moment, it became evident to all present. She wasn't here to trade insults. The room held its breath as Crockett leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing with deliberate focus. Her voice, calm and unwavering, carried a weight that seemed to bend the very air around it. And then she spoke the words that would ripple across screens, social feeds, and conversations for days to come. A single, precise revelation, a DNA bombshell that landed with the force of inevitability. The syllables, though few, carried clarity, truth, and a subtle sting that no one in the room could ignore. Time appeared to stretch. The blinking tally lights seemed frozen, the hum of the cameras muted in the collective shock. Trump's expression, once confident, flickered through a series of micro-reactions. Surprise, disbelief, a momentary panic masked by habitual bravado. His hands froze mid-gesture, lips pressed into a line as the impact registered. The host, caught between protocol and astonishment, stared, unable to fill the void of silence that followed the revelation. Even the production crew felt the shift, scrambling to adjust camera angles, check cues, and capture every frame of the unfolding spectacle. The audience, both in the studio and watching from home, felt it immediately. A tense silence, pregnant with incredulity, dominated the room. Phones rose instinctively, recording, capturing, transmitting. Social media feeds erupted within seconds. Clips were clipped, tagged, and uploaded, ready to be shared with the urgency of a moment no one wanted to miss. Tweets speculated, captions screamed incredulity, and within minutes, the moment became a cultural event. Dissected frame by frame, comment by comment, reaction by reaction, Crockett's poise remained unshaken. Every inflection, every carefully measured pause amplified the effect of her revelation. She didn't need to shout, to gesticulate, or to demand attention. The gravity of her words had already done the work. In the contrast between her calm and the shock she provoked, the audience found drama, validation, and satisfaction. This was more than a clash. It was a demonstration of control, precision, and the undeniable power of measured truth against theatrics. The energy in the studio shifted palpably. Trump, usually impervious to surprise, seemed momentarily unmoored. His performance faltered, subtle cracks appearing in the confident facade he had projected moments before. Meanwhile, viewers at home leaned closer, some gasping, some murmuring, all aware that they had just witnessed a moment that would be replayed endlessly. Memes, reaction videos, and short clips began circulating almost instantly, spreading the shock and awe of that single revelation to an audience far beyond the walls of the studio. And yet the magnitude of what had just happened was only beginning to unfold. Every camera angle, every live edit, every shared clip added to the weight of the moment, amplifying it in ways no one in the room could have predicted. The silence that followed was not emptiness. It was anticipation, the collective acknowledgement that this moment would not fade quietly, that its influence would ripple outward. It's unstoppable, viral, and immediate. The shockwave had only begun. Trump had always been larger than life, a figure who thrived in the glare of attention. His entrances commanded the room, his gestures punctuated every sentence, and his voice carried the weight of confidence honed over decades of public performance. Even before the cameras rolled, there was an aura of control that seemed almost tangible, a presence that could bend energy and attention to his favor. The studio lights reflected off polished surfaces, but it was his swagger, his theatrical poise that dominated the space. He didn't just occupy a chair, he claimed the entire room. Every motion was purposeful. Hands sliced the air in precise arcs, emphasizing his points with the rhythm of someone used to speaking to thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions at once. A flick of the wrist, a tilt of the head, a lean forward toward the camera all carried a sense of mastery. It was the kind of presence that made others defer instinctively, that filled the air with expectation. When Trump spoke, the audience leaned in, the host adjusted posture. And even the cameras seemed to follow his cadence, capturing the subtleties of performance. Confidence was not just a trait, it was a tool. He knew how to dominate conversations with energy, how to fill silence with force, and how to leverage theatrics to assert authority. His history of commanding rooms, winning arguments with flair, and turning appearances into spectacle made him appear untouchable. Every glance, every word, every micro-gesture reinforced the idea that he controlled the narrative, that he was the center of gravity around which the entire broadcast orbited. And yet, was precisely this expectation of dominance that set the stage for the shock. A figure so accustomed to control, so used to setting the rhythm, was suddenly confronted by a composure that refused to be intimidated. Where he projected force, Crockett projected calm. Where he sought volume, she wielded precision. The contrast was stark. A hurricane of energy against a quiet, unshakable stillness. The very traits that had ensured his dominance now amplified the effect of being challenged in a way he hadn't anticipated. His expressions carried a story of performance-long rehearsed murks, nods, confident glares, and well-timed interruptions. But, in the face of the looming reveal, the cracks began to appear. Subtle at first, a hesitation in his gestures, a flicker in the eyes, a pause that lingered longer than usual. The audience, trained to watch for these cues, noticed immediately. There was an imperceptible shift, a moment where control threatened to slip. And in that subtle unraveling, the stakes of the broadcast became painfully clear. This was not just another confrontation. This was a moment that could redefine perception in seconds. Trump had mastered unpredictability, turning surprises into opportunities. Yet here, the challenge was different. It was a quiet, deliberate force that did not rise to meet his energy, that did not react with haste or theatrics. It was a calm that refused to be rattled, a precision that demanded attention. For the first time in the broadcast, the energy he had relied on to dominate felt unmoored, disrupted by something he could not anticipate. The cameras captured every micro-reaction, every fraction of a second where the balance of power subtly shifted. The host leaned forward, the audience tensed, and even the production team felt the room's energy change. It was a confrontation not just of words, but of presence, collision between spectacle and composure, and the stakes were clear. Showman, so used to control, now faced a force he could not command, and in that moment of poised tension, it became undeniable. He didn't see the calm approach coming. Jasmine Crockett entered the broadcast with a presence that contrasted sharply. With the storm of energy across the split screen, there was no frantic gesturing, no overextended posturing, no attempt to dominate with volume. Every movement was deliberate, measured, controlled. Ars met the camera with steady focus, her breathing even, as if she had been preparing for this precise moment her entire life. The room seemed to bend slightly to her rhythm, not because of theatrics, but because of the quiet authority she radiated. Her voice carried clarity. Each word weighted, each phrase chosen with intention. There was a cadence to her delivery that commanded attention without demanding it. A natural magnetism born from confidence, preparation, and poise. In the tension-filled atmosphere of a live broadcast, she did not react, she directed. Her restraint was not hesitation, it was mastery. Every pause, every glance, every subtle inflection suggested a mind fully in control, aware of the stakes and ready to deliver a revelation that would shift the room's energy entirely. Unlike the antagonist, who relied on volume and spectacle, Crockett relied on precision and timing. Her calm created space, forcing the audience and even her opponent to lean in, to pay attention, to anticipate. Every eye in the studio followed her measured gestures. Even the host, typically a steadying presence, leaned slightly forward. Caught in the gravity of her quiet confidence, the silence surrounding her words became a canvas. A deliberate stage for the impact she was about to create. There was empathy in her composure. It's an aura that invited the audience to connect rather than recoil. Viewers could sense her authenticity. The deliberate pacing of someone who understood that influence often comes not from noise, but from clarity and truth. In her calm, there was reassurance, a demonstration that confidence need not be loud, and that dignity often carries more power than theatrics. For the audience, it was a moment of alignment, a point of identification that transcended political divides and spoke to a universal human. Admiration for control under pressure, her restraint, was intentional. It was the silent signal that something significant was coming. That the moment they had been primed for the clash, the revelation, the shift in dynamics, was about to arrive. Every gesture, every breath, every glance served as preparation for the single point she would choose to make, the exact instant that would change everything. And then she chose her moment. The broadcast began in medias res, the studio lights harsh and unyielding, casting a sharp glow across every polished surface. Cameras whirred, tally lights blinked in rhythmic insistence, and the audience held its collective breath. From the first second, it was clear that this was not a typical exchange. There was tension in the air, an almost electric charge, as if the very molecules of the room had aligned to anticipate the impossible. And then Jasmine Crockett spoke. Her words were deliberate, precise, and delivered with a calm that contrasted sharply with the storm of expectation. "The DNA results are conclusive," she stated, voice steady, eyes locked on the lens, projecting 2 millions without a hint of hesitation. The words landed like a meteor striking a quiet lake, sending ripples outward that unsettled everything around them. For a moment, the host froze mid-sentence, the teleprompter's glow reflecting in wide eyes. A cough from the audience went unnoticed, swallowed by the weight of the revelation. Every person in the studio felt the sudden gravity of the moment, as if the entire room had tilted on its axis. Trump, seated across the split screen, had begun the segment with his usual energy, confident smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He leaned back slightly, hands gesturing to punctuate his points, the performance of control evident in every movement. But as Crockett's words sank in, something shifted. His posture stiffened subtly, the flicker of surprise crossing his eyes before it was masked by a familiar practiced smirk, even for someone accustomed to commanding attention. There was an undeniable disruption, a crack in the performance carefully constructed over years. Cameras cut between angles, capturing the micro-expressions that spoke louder than any words. A twitch of the lip, a brief narrowing of the eyes, a pause that stretched longer than comfortable, all became magnified in the charged atmosphere. The audience leaned forward, collective anticipation tightening like a drawn wire waiting for the reaction that they knew would follow. Social media feeds would later erupt with the moment's first memes. The instant clips, the seconds captured frame by frame, but in that studio, the spectacle was lived in real time, raw and unedited. The host, usually a master of timing and composure, momentarily lost his rhythm. Notes slipped in his hands, a slight hesitation marking the change in the room's tempo. The cameras, relentless in their gaze, followed every twitch, every subtle reaction. As though understanding the history was being quietly inscribed in these fleeting moments, the lighting, the angles, the hum of the broadcast, all became part of the theater, emphasizing the stakes without a single word needing to be added. Time seemed to dilate. Seconds stretched and elongated, each heartbeat of the room magnified. Viewers at home would later replay these moments, marveling at the precision of the tension, the subtle shifts in expression, the almost imperceptible change in energy. But in that studio, no one needed playback. Every individual could feel the impact in electric anticipation. It's a realization that something extraordinary had just begun. Then, just as the audience thought they had absorbed the weight of the claim, Trump's reaction crystallized. The smirk faltered. The confident lean retreated. A shadow of panic brushed across a face trained to remain unshakable under scrutiny. And yet, even as the change became apparent, the true magnitude of what had just been set in motion remained, unseen, waiting to unfold in the moments to come. The cameras kept rolling. The studio remained silent, the audience frozen, the host grappling to regain composure. And for the viewers witnessing this broadcast, there was a shared understanding. This was not just another televised exchange. This was a moment that would define headlines, dominate social media, and ignite conversations for days to come. But the next few seconds turned to tense. Exchange into a viral moment, the air didn't thicken overnight. It had been building for weeks. Each interview, each passing comment, each pointed jab on television, social media, and talk shows had added layer upon layer of tension. Viewers had become spectators to a slow-burning rivalry, one that transcended policy debates and entered the realm of spectacle. The narrative was clear. A collision was inevitable, and the world was waiting with bated breath to see who would falter first. Every televised appearance carried hints of confrontation. Trump's dismissive quips, designed to unsettle, circulated in headlines, while jasminecrockett.com measured retorts only amplified the anticipation. Clips of their previous exchanges were dissected online with fans and critics alike, speculating on every micro-expression, every pause, every inflection. Social media became a stage of its own where memes, commentaries, and threads multiplied, each one feeding the collective curiosity. Who would break? Who would claim the narrative in the public eye? The audience had been primed, and the broadcast was set to deliver the moment of reckoning. It was more than a clash of personalities. It was a showcase of contrast. On one side, a figure of theatrical bravado, accustomed to commanding rooms with energy and spectacle. On the other, a figure of measured precision, whose quiet confidence carried a weight that could shift entire conversations without raising a voice. The juxtaposition alone was enough to captivate audiences. People tuned in not just for information but for the drama, the anticipation. The unfolding theater of two forces colliding under the glare of national attention. The stakes were amplified. By the cultural lens, this wasn't merely politics. It was media theater, a celebrity-level rivalry unfolding live. Viewers felt the tension personally, as though the energy in the studio had leaped across screens to their living rooms, offices, and cafes. Every lingering glance, every subtle shift in tone became a shared heartbeat, a collective anticipation of a moment that could ripple far beyond the broadcast itself. The emotional investment was tangible, a mix of curiosity, suspense, and the irresistible lure of witnessing history in real time. Even casual viewers could feel it. The unspoken question hovered over the broadcast like a storm cloud. Who would crack first? Who would dominate the narrative? And in this heightened environment, every second mattered. Camera angles captured micro-expressions that would later become viral highlights, while producers subtly adjusted pacing to accentuate tension, aware that even a fraction of a misstep could make or break the unfolding moment. Beyond the broadcast, the conversation had already begun. News outlets speculated on outcomes, pundits debated strategies, and social media amplified every rumor and prediction. The digital ecosystem acted like an echo chamber, magnifying anticipation, creating a feedback loop where every reaction fed into the next, making the eventual confrontation feel not only inevitable, but unavoidable. And through it all, the audience waited. They knew the history, the personalities, the theatrics. They had seen build-ups before, but something about this exchange carried a sense of immediacy, of potential transformation. Every word uttered, every glance exchanged, could tip the balance, could define the narrative for days, weeks, even longer. The tension was palpable. The cameras kept rolling. The audience leaned in, fully aware that the collision they had been primed for was imminent. And then, as the seconds stretched, and the first words of the exchange hung in the air, it became clear that this was no ordinary broadcast. What happened next changed the tone of the entire broadcast.